Hey everybody, welcome back to a second chance. My name is Philip Jones.
And my name is Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease challenges and needs to be coached on these challenges, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a great show tonight, man. Definitely one of one of a great gentleman that we are going to talk about him, and we're going to let him tell his story about him being a caregiver to his father. His father has challenges with liver and kidney disease, and we're going to talk to him and let him tell us how it is to be a caregiver. And we also want to put a spin on what caregivers look like. Sometimes we think caregivers look certain ways, but we want to tell you that in the Black community, we have caregivers that are men as well, and so we want to put the spotlight on that this evening. How you doing, Tazwell?
Not bad so far. Hey Phil, how you doing?
Doing pretty good in yourself, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good. Taz, go ahead, take it away, man. Tell your story and let us just hear what you got to say about this.
Okay. So my my father's health issues started I want to say the beginning. Yeah, it was the beginning of 2021. Um he was he's always been, a healthy person, did 3.5 years in the military, always rather active, and things of that nature. 2021, he started having this fluid build up in his stomach. And so we spoke to his gastroenterologist at the time. So he made an appointment with a liver specialist at a local hospital here. So to we went to the hospital. This was in May of 2021, and at that time, the liver specialist, after going through a battery of tests, had diagnosed him with cirrhosis. Um, which at the time was kind of, well, it was baffling to me because my father, he doesn't drink, he's not a drinker, and cirrhosis of the liver is something that's commonly associated with alcohol consumption. So he was diagnosed with cirrhosis. They He put him on a 2 gram sodium, 2 gram potassium diet. And we were continuing with that once he was released from the hospital after completing his test. So fast forward to June. He also, well, back in May, after doing the test, they couldn't really pinpoint why the ascites was building up in his stomach. And when they did the test, they were saying that it could be um, he had some abnormal blood vessels that were connected to the liver. They were saying it could be a non-cancerous hemangioma, which is basically like a benign mass on the liver. And they were saying that when they did the initial scan, they thought that they saw a blood clot. So in addition to the 2 gram sodium, 2 gram potassium diet, they put him on a blood thinner. They put him on Eliquis. And so from fast forward to June, it was like maybe a day or two before Father's Day. Um, my dad woke up, and my mother had noticed there was blood in the bed. And so she called me in, and I saw that. I said, Dad, we need to go to the hospital. So we took him to the hospital. He was still battling the fluid buildup in his stomach at the time, and long story short, he was in real bad shape. So luckily, my family, we have a family friend that is a doctor up at Cleveland Clinic, and so I was in contact with my nephew and my sister because they were out of town at the time celebrating my sister's birthday, and I called him and I let him know that I had to take your grandfather to the hospital. We're at the hospital right now, and they're doing tests, and they're trying to see what's going on with him. Now, to backtrack a little bit, my father had already had an appointment with a doctor up at Cleveland Clinic, and so his appointment was scheduled for, I believe it was in July. So I was, going over all of this with my nephew, and so my nephew, our family friend, who's the physician at Cleveland Clinic, she's my nephew's god sister. So he got on the phone with her and was relaying the information to her that I was giving to him, and long story short, she said, you need to get him up to Cleveland Clinic because it sounds like what's going on with your father is a little bit too advanced for the facilities down here in Youngstown. So once my father was initially admitted to the hospital here, I worked with the gastroenterologist, physician's assistant that was seeing him at the time. And I was talking to her, and she was like, you know what? I think you're right. I think he needs to go to Cleveland Clinic. And since he already has an appointment to go to Cleveland Clinic, I don't foresee there being any problem with, making that happen. So we got him up to Cleveland Clinic, and when we were at Cleveland Clinic, it was a few things. It was the initial diagnosis that he received back in May of cirrhosis was not what Cleveland Clinic saw when they began doing the tests. So they didn't find any evidence of a blood clot. So they took him off of the blood thinner medication. They said he was diagnosed with, instead of cirrhosis, they said what he had was non-regenerative hyperplasia, along with the non-cancerous mass that was on his liver, in addition to the abnormal blood vessels. And the nephrologist, the kidney specialist that came in to see him, because at Cleveland Clinic they have a team that actually comes in and works with you to try to diagnose what's going on with you. The nephrologist informed us that he had, at that time, I believe it was stage 3A chronic kidney disease. And so he was in Cleveland Clinic from Father's Day up until, I believe, the second week of July. I believe he was discharged around July 10th, July 11th. So at that time, they were doing the test. We were receiving information on his condition, receiving information on his diet, and they had started him on an antibiotic because that was the other thing that was happening as well. The fluid that was building up in his stomach had gotten infected, so they prescribed him some antibiotic to kill the infection that was in the fluid in his stomach. And so we got back home, and we were just trying to follow the protocols that we had given, in addition to this new information about the chronic kidney disease as well. Because when we were when we were down at the hospital here, we were given the instructions as to not going above 2 grams of sodium, not going above 2 grams of potassium in his diet. And there was a kidney specialist as well that was working with my father when he was in the hospital here. But we still weren't clear on, we had gotten the protocol, but we weren't clear on why he had gotten the protocol. And so it wasn't until we went to Cleveland Clinic and they said, he also has chronic kidney disease, that, things began to click and make more sense. So, it was kind of like going into crisis mode. So just trying to find out as much as we could about the chronic kidney disease and how to combat that. Because one of the things that we were informed of when we were in Cleveland Clinic is that, when you can have a liver condition and the kidneys will kind of pick up the slack for your liver, or you can have a kidney condition and the liver will kind of pick up the slack for what the kidneys are going through. But my father was going through both at the same time, so that made his treatment kind of tricky because you have the liver not doing what it's supposed to do, and you also have the kidneys not functioning at a high capacity. So it makes, getting rid of toxins in the body, kind of cleaning out the toxins in the body, it makes it a little bit more difficult. So at that stage, I just began looking at, all of the options that were available, trying to figure out, the best way to go about helping my father. And, when I was talking to my nephew one day and, I was telling him, how his grandfather was doing and, telling him about his liver condition and the chronic kidney disease. And, he goes, wait a minute, I know somebody that, can help with the kidney disease. So that was when he reached out to Tafaro via text message, and he put me and Tafaro into contact with one another, and we began talking. And man, it's I can honestly say that over a period of a year, just when Tafaro, when we started talking, the difference in my father's condition has been a 180 from, being not necessarily lethargic or lazy, but when you live with somebody, what they look like, what they do, how they function when they're themselves, when they're completely healthy. So my dad, I'm used to him, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and, going to the bathroom and, washing his face and throwing on some clothes and just up, active, getting ready to go down to the church, getting ready to, go to trustee meetings and board meetings and so on and so forth, and things of that nature. And for a while there, I knew he wasn't feeling like himself because he wasn't doing those things. He wasn't getting up as early as he usually got up. He wasn't, going to church like he regularly does. He wasn't, just participating in the activities that, he likes to do at the same clip as he once was. And, after that first consult with Tafaro, when he was basically just giving us a rundown of what he did and trying to get information from my dad about, his day-to-day activities and things of that nature, and asking, one of the first questions that he asked him was, how much water are you drinking? And at the time, my father was drinking like maybe 4 of the little 8-ounce bottles. And Tafar was like, yeah, that's not enough water. You need to be drinking at least 8 of those. And when I tell you the turnaround from just that first consult, like a simple thing as drinking water, my father went from, being kind of lethargic and down to that next day was, once he got those eight ounces of water in him, it was night and day. He was up. He seemed like the father that I grew up with, the father that, I'm used to, just active, moving, just engaged in the activities that he's usually engaged in. And I said, wow, after that first console, I knew that this was definitely a direction that we needed to continue to go in, because if a change like that can have that much of an effect on somebody, then I'm all for it. And I remember thinking to myself that this is something that was never brought up when I was going to my father's doctor's appointments. Like, nobody ever asked him, that I can remember, how much water he was drinking, or stressing the importance of making sure someone that's battling the conditions that he's battling, stressing how important water is, and how getting like eight ounces of water a day, how important that is for somebody that's going through what he's going through. And I said, yeah, if Tafaro can fill in those slots that are being left blank or overlooked or taken for granted by the doctors, then this is definitely somebody that I want to be in contact with, as far as my father and what he's going through. It's just a blessing to have somebody help us navigate and fill those spots in, or think about those things that a doctor may not be cognizant of, or may just overlook because they're dealing with an influx of patients.
That's big, man. That's huge, man. That's yeah. Just those little small things mean a lot, man. And that's a wonderful story. But let's talk about the you said in the fluid buildup. Could you tell the fluid was building up when you first saw it? I mean, what was your first reaction when you saw your dad? Like, what I'm trying to say is, what was your first initial? Was your first initial when you saw the blood in the bed, or did you start seeing him slow down first?
Well, the initial reaction was, my mother actually saw it. She noticed the fluid build up in the stomach first, and then I saw it, and I was like, well, yeah, his belly is sort of distended. And so my immediate reaction was to, I have this book here called The Prescription for Nutritional Healing, and it has a list of all of these conditions. So I started doing internet searches, trying to figure out why the fluid was building up and what could possibly be a cause of it. And so before his initial consult with the liver specialist back in May of 2021. I was in that book. I was on the internet trying to find out, what was causing this fluid buildup. And, that was when I started to come across the information about the liver. And so, I said, well, it looks like it could be the liver, because that was another thing too, like the symptoms, because in addition to the fluid buildup in the stomach, my mother had also noticed his fluid, his ankles. There was fluid building up around his ankles as well. So I looked at his ankles, and that was kind of the tricky thing because, the information that I came across at the time was saying, if there's something wrong with the liver, fluid can build up in the ankles. But to go back, now that we know that he's facing chronic kidney disease, the fluid in the ankles could also be related to the chronic kidney disease. So I wasn't even thinking about his kidneys at the time, because all of the information that I was coming across was pointing to the liver. Right. And so, it wasn't until we got that diagnosis up at Cleveland Clinic that I said things started to click and make sense. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So he's dealing with two of these issues at the same time. And some of them have overlap. Some of the symptoms overlap. Wow, so that was when and seeing the blood that morning when he woke up, that was just, I knew that wasn't right at all. That was because he has a GI doc here, and I called his GI doctor's office and said, my father woke up and there's blood in his underwear and there's blood on the bed. And she was like, just take him to emergency room. That's not anything to play with.
Right. One thing I commend you doing, your family, is when you see a hospital that's, I'm just going to say, not capable of handling the situation, you guys directly move to a better hospital. I shouldn't say better. I should say a hospital that's a little bit more, has a little bit more experience in dealing with these situations.
Right.
And that's big, because a lot
of the situation.
Right. Exactly. Equipped to handle the situation. Thank you, Philip. I agree with that, because a lot of times people will stick in their comfort zone in that little wherever they are and just go, the ship will go down that way, instead of going, hold on, we got to go somewhere else to get a little bit more information. And that's what you guys, and that's what you guys did and stuff like that, going to Cleveland Clinic. And the good thing about Cleveland Clinic, I've been there, I spoke there before and everything. And they gave him the proper diagnosis, and also told him about the kidneys. Like you said, the more information you get, that's when you're like, okay, now this makes sense. You start connecting the dots. And that's right. And that's what you guys did. That's really, really important. Let me ask you this though, because I know, when I talk to your father, he likes eating he eats really, really good. How was he on that 2 milligram sodium but potassium diet? That's a tough one.
Well, it was. I don't want to say it was difficult, because I'm a type 1 diabetic.
Okay.
So when he initially got the instructions of no more than 2 grams of potassium, no more than 2 grams of sodium, you like most of us, and I hate speaking in generalizations, but most of us, we just eat and we don't measure things like that out. But since I've been a type 1 diabetic, it's imperative that I count carbs, I count calories, I do all of that. So that was when, all of those years of being diabetic, I guess you can say, finally paid off, because I was able, I had that knowledge of what counting sodium and what counting potassium, what it looked like. So I could say, okay, these are the foods that my dad loves to eat. So I need to go in and figure out how much of these foods he can actually have in a day without going over his threshold. So that wasn't so much of a challenge figuring it out. It was just making sure that he tried to stay as close as he could to those limits without going over. Yeah.
Right.
So like that it a lot of it just involved like simple things as going to the store and getting low salt or no salt green beans or low or no salt like canned corn and things of that nature, and just like reading labels and things like that. So yeah.
Right. One thing, like I said, man, every time I'm on a call with you and your father, one thing I commend you for is every time I ask for labs or what's going on here and there, you are always on top of your game, and that's why I was so impressed with the care that you give for your father. And I'm telling you, Philip, I was blown away. And Philip, we work with patients throughout, and sometimes when you see a caregiver going the initial, bigger levels, doing much more. It was miraculous to me, because I'll be like, hey, I need these labs, this, so I can see this, and he would be, Taz is right on top of it, man. And so one of the big things I want to tell people is, caregivers come in all shapes and forms, okay? They don't just come in one category. You're looking at a caregiver right here that is A1, and been A1 from day one on his father's care. And like I said, we at Kidney Care Coaches and Second Chance, we commend you for that, for sure, man. That's big.
Thank you all. I appreciate it. I mean, I think that just comes from like this past few years have given me a lot. It's given me a lot of time to think and reflect, just on the care that African Americans get in the healthcare system as a whole, and how there are gaps and misdiagnoses and non-diagnoses. So I think in being a caregiver, one of those facets of being a caregiver is being an advocate. And as much as I love my mom and my dad, I'm always going to advocate for them, like no matter what. That's just it. I mean, that's the end of the story. Like, I'm not gonna accept anything less than the best for them. So if there's a question I feel that needs to be asked, I'm gonna ask it. And if the answer doesn't satisfy me, similar to when his initial diagnosis down at the hospital here, I was like, nah, this just not, something's not right. And we need to get a second opinion. And getting a second opinion after that experience, I will always be a fan and an advocate of seeking a second opinion, seeking somebody outside of the comfort zone, because there's too much going on in the world and with African Americans nowadays in regards to, well, I mean everything, but it's specifically the healthcare system. That if something's bothering me, then I'm gonna advocate for a second opinion, or to have those things that don't make any sense explained to me, so I can make sure that the people that I love and care about are getting the care that's due them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you said that, because a lot of people don't know that they are given the right to get in the second opinion. I mean, it's like when that feeling, those hairs stand up in the back of your neck, that means there's something wrong. Something you need to be asking some more questions and diving deeper into what the doctors are saying to figure out, exactly what's going on, like person that you're taking care of. But one thing I did want to say was, I give your father props for making that turnaround with his health. Because remember when you said earlier we were talking, you said he's a different person from a year ago, and that speaks volumes, because and some of that props go self to Mr. Cook, but you guys can tell him and instruct him to do certain things to you blue in the face, but if you don't do them, it means nothing. So the
Right.
fact that he's taking those instructions and applying them to his life, these values, saying that he wants to be here continuously on this earth, in your life, in his wife's life, and and things of that nature. So that's big. And my last question, I'm gonna let Mr. Cook take over from here. But what was that? What did those stay do? Like, I know you said he was in there for about a month. Did it throw him off a little bit, or was he the same when he came back? Because I know when I'm in for about a month, I'm a little shaky, a little rocky when I get home.
Right.
And
Right.
so what did that do for him, and how long did it take him to kind of get back to even?
Well, when he was it's funny because he was ready to get out of there. Like he was ready to. I remember the day when he was released. Like he didn't waste any time like getting out of his hospital gown and putting on his slacks and his shirt and his shoes, and he was just ready to go. And when we brought him home, he really did hit the ground running because he was feeling better. Like um everything that needed to be taken care of was taken care of. So he was feeling like himself. They had drained the fluid off of his stomach. Um, they had discontinued the his blood thinner that he was on, because that was another thing too. Like when he initially went on the blood thinner, um, you could tell that he was a little off. Like the
Right.
medicine itself didn't agree with him. And when he came off of it, it was just like, okay, he's doing a little bit. He's doing better now that he's not on the blood thinner. He's doing better now that he has the fluid off of his stomach. He's doing better now that he's making certain dietary choices. So we were just trying to continue on that track, and um, even continuing on that track, we still needed that little extra bit of help to kind of keep upping the bar, so to speak. So when we finally got in contact with Tafaro, I think that was one of the things that finally pushed us over the limit, because it's night and day how he is now. I really can't say that enough.
That's awesome, man.
So
That's
I do have one last question. I know I said I had one last one, but exactly how did they remove the fluid through dialysis, or is constant urination? Like what was the process for them removing that fluid off his stomach?
So it's been a couple of things. One of those things being a diuretic. So as we were monitoring my dad's kidney functions, his nephrologist um, here in town uh, started to prescribe a diuretic for him, because he looking at his kidneys, he was saying, I think his kidney function is at a stage where he can handle a diuretic, which would cause him to, urinate more frequently, and hopefully get some of that
Right.
fluid off of
Right.
his stomach. One of the other procedure is a procedure called paracentesis. So that's when the interventional radiologist would use sonogram, and they would scan my dad's stomach to find a spot where the fluid was really built up, and they would numb an injection site and then insert like a catheter to vacuum that excess fluid out. So those have been the two primary the medicine and the paracentesis. Those have been the two primary things that my dad has been using to keep the fluid off of his stomach.
Okay. Well, Mr. Cook, the show is yours, young.
I just have a couple more questions to ask, and then we're going to let Tazwell do his thing. Again, so one thing I do like about your father when we do our conversations, our talks, is he's a very active man. To be 85 years old, he is very active. He's he walks. He's engaged. Works in the church. He's up there quite a bit. And my goal, honestly, was to allow him to keep on doing these things. That's what I wanted him to do. Do the things that you love to do, because that's what makes us. That's what's so important. I know you were quite happy when you saw him going right back to doing the things you saw him do, because it's almost like a relief. Tell us how you felt about that.
Oh man, that so this past year, there have been ups and downs, but that his initial discharge back in July of 2021, I was on cloud nine just to see him, wake up in the morning like he's used to doing, and getting his day started, in the bathroom, washing his face, going downstairs, getting something to eat for breakfast. Like, that was such a relief. I felt the same way about his initial release back in July of last year as I did a couple of months ago, when you said, like, hey, you need to be drinking more water. And after he started, like, it was kind of like, it was the exact same thing. He starts drinking more water, and then he gets up at like 6 a.m. and he's getting his day started. Like, that's the person that, I grew up with, and it was like clockwork every day. So anytime you see somebody doing those things that you're used to seeing, it's always a relief. Like, it's a breath of fresh air.
Right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what you like to do and everything. What keeps you going.
Oh man, I I think at this point, just making sure that my parents are going, that keeps me going. That's like one of the main things. In the meantime, I've gotten back into writing. That's one of the things that that happened during the pandemic. So I'm trying to flex my creative muscles in different storytelling ventures.
Awesome.
Getting back into like audio production, because I did that for, I want to say, like 10 or 11 years. I was working at a radio station, so just trying to kind of like getting in touch with those things that I had kind of fallen out of touch with over the years. Just being here, looking after my mom and my pop, like that's given me an opportunity to get back to those things. So I'm very appreciative and thankful for that as well.
That's awesome, because Phil's an actor. He's a thespian. Let's just say that. So Phil's out Phil's out in LA. He does theater work and everything, man. He's heavy into it. So
that's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Next time whenever that may be, next time I'm out to LA, man, I'll definitely have to look you up and come check out a production or two.
Oh yeah, definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because not funny, but a couple dudes, not everybody, but a couple dudes I know out in LA do that kind of work. You know, they do plays, they do theater, and writing, and just real creative. And I have two really good, yeah, I have two good creative dudes on this podcast with us right now. So I'm not the most creative. I just know about the kidneys. So I'm gonna stay in my lane. I don't know what I do, but I couldn't act myself out of a paper bag, so that's not gonna happen. But man, we just wanted to get your story on here, man. We thank you so much. Thank you for telling us about that. Again, like I said, I want to stress the point that caregivers come in all shapes and forms, and they also come in Black men. I just wanted to say that because that's very, very important. Because a lot of times when we see caregivers, we have this stereotype of they look just this way, and that's not true. And again, this gentleman right here is A1. He's on top of the game. Like I said, that is, people don't understand that the only way you can get healthy is with your support team. Your support team is going to allow you to only go so far, and that's big. I had a great support team. Phil has a great support team, and Mr. Tazwell Franklin, the second or first, has a great support team in you, man. So keep up the great work. We appreciate you, and thank you, Phil. Do you have anything else to say?
No. I think we won't be back till what, 2 weeks from now, because you'll be in Ohio next week.
Yeah, I'll be in Ohio next week.
Yeah. So we might have a show, or I might show a replay of a show. I figure it out sometime this week. But definitely, if you can, go over, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, if you can, why not? School supply drive is coming up this August, so if you can donate to that, we'd appreciate it. And Mr. Tazwell, we appreciate you coming through and sharing your story between you. It was definitely worth it. So,
thank you, brothers.
again,
I appreciate the invitation.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So we'll see you all probably in a couple of weeks, and stay blessed. We out.
Peace.